Ciao tutti. Hi everyone. Hey everyone, it's your boy MKS. Back to another video. I'm just going to check I'm live on Facebook as well at the same time, and I am. Loaded quite quickly. I'm on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Hope you enjoy this video and this series of videos as ever. I'll say it's your boy MKS here. Back to another video. You've got my initials on just in case I forget who I am. I shouldn't joke about that. I say sometimes I probably forget my own name sometimes, but anywho. I did want to do this on Tuesday, but because I was trying to listen to the Italy game, which I mentioned recently went really badly, but thankfully the people involved in Italian football seem to have been got rid of. Hopefully we're going to get some new, say we as a fan, are going to get some new, really good people in. I hope it's not going to be the same old dinosaurs or whatever. I'm a dinosaur myself, but anyway, I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And throughout the month perhaps, but for this video and these series of videos, I'm hoping to get around to at least part 2 and hopefully part 3 and preferably part 4 as well. I hope to talk about, and I'm way behind schedule, but I hope to talk about what could affect the whole world, but I think approximately, I meant to put in the description as well, it's about between about 4 to 5 billion or more people. I think in the whole of Asia, it's about 60% of the world's population, and they say there's about 8 billion people in the world, approximately, supposedly. I don't know who counts that, but so if you took half, that would be about 4 billion. 10% more would be about 4.8 billion, and there's approximately about 1 billion people, or even a bit more than that, I think, across Africa. So that would be about 5 or even 5.8 billion or something like that, roughly. I'd see them all unite together and work together, but a lot of people think of Egypt. The reason why I mention Egypt, I'll try and go through and explain as best as possible and get to the point as quickly as I can before I get into the list. A lot of people think of Egypt as just being in Africa, and some people probably think of it being in just Asia. Probably a lot of people think of it in both. A lot of people probably just think it's in Africa, and a lot of people probably think it's just in Asia. I don't know what's in other people's minds, so I don't know. I'm not a mind reader, as they say, but actually it's in both. As I put it, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly or answering it in the correct way. If I'm using the correct term, answering it in the correct way, but it straddles 2 continents, so to speak. So it's in Asia and Africa, apparently. So it's the only transcontinental country between Africa and Asia. So most of these plans I have and dreams are for Egypt to be a bridge, to put it as simply as possible, between Africa and Asia, as it's in both continents. But there are a few other things I was going to say, but I'll probably save them for part 2, 3, and 4 for the intro or whatnot, because I'm going to try and crack on with the video. I want to try and keep it short and sweet, which I normally try and do, but I normally fail to do. But I'm going to do my best. Probably failed that initiative a little bit, but anyway. So here goes. So number 1, as I say, I'd love for Egypt to be a bridge between Africa and Asia, to bring them together in projects, Africa to Asia projects, whichever one you want to put in. I normally try and get the worst out of the way and gradually get more positive as I go along, from negatives to positives, from pessimism to optimism and that kind of thing. So I like to save the best to last, but I love to find out about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, I know I try and save the best till last, so I'd say the ugly, the bad, and the good as well, in that order. But yeah, I'd love to find out some of the negative things about Africa and Asia, and maybe what they can improve on. I guess would be part of the reason to find out. But yeah, all sorts of different views about Africa and Asia. I also think of, for point number 1, I think of the selfish thing. So I'd love to, and I'll probably come to this a few times, 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times or whatever, maybe more, throughout these videos. But I'd love to promote Italian football across Africa and Asia, in this case, and maybe Italy could have deals with African nations as well as Asian nations to improve race relations, especially between Italy and Africa, I guess, and Asia as well, I guess, and to talk about migrational deals for those with a skill or talent for football that could benefit in talent football from Africa and Asia. But yeah, I'll talk more about that as I go along, to support like startups, SMEs, and projects generally from Africa and Asia. Point number 2, I'd love for Egypt, therefore, to be, as I say, a bridge between Africa and Asia. I'd love for them to host events and maybe have special buildings that can facilitate Africa to Asia deals. So they could have like networking events between African and Asian businesses, delegatory, or whatever the right word is, delegation events basically between Africa and Asia, so they can discuss things together politically, share ideas in the movie industry, music industry, and all sorts of different industries generally, and to learn from each other. See what Africa and Asia can learn about each other, and what the world can learn from them, and what they can learn from the rest of the world as well, I guess. So like, what do some Latin American countries do that maybe African and Asian nations could implement? And I'd love for Africa to network together, as they in politics, business, tech, STEM generally, and all sorts of different areas to promote their products and work together, for instance, to cure illnesses and diseases, to tackle climate change, global warming, find out the root cause of these things, and all sorts of things like that. So to cure things and improve things and things like that. And to learn, as they maybe learn about each other's history and cultures, and about each other as much as possible, and also learn from each other. So I'd love for Egypt to host events, as I say, like where Africans and Asians can dance together, create music events together, collaborate on music, collaborate on movies, and all sorts of different things like that, and see what they can achieve. So yeah, I'd love for Egypt to host as many of those events as possible. And moving on to point number 3, I'd love to promote libertarianism across Africa and Asia, and again for Egypt to have that, maybe even to invite libertarian parties and groups to teach about libertarianism across Africa and Asia, so people can learn about libertarianism, and I suppose live and let live, and look at what freedoms Asia and Africa can get. So brilliant point number 3, and look at how they could be like tax havens and things like that, and maybe lobby for countries to put their taxes into Asia and Africa, and reparational sort of stuff, which I hope to come to as well. So yeah, discussing like maybe what freedoms should be allowed. Like it could be freedom of religion, freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, expression, or whatever other freedoms they might see fit, and maybe learn about libertarianism, read about the Libertarian Manifesto, and all sorts of things about libertarianism, as I say. And moving on to point number 4, one of the biggest things I'd love to do is to promote peace within Africa and Asia. So hopefully through diplomacy and dialogue, it can prevent future wars, and come together to make peace deals, and to learn to love and trust each other, and be proud of each other, and support each other, and not be jealous of each other. I sometimes talk about like not jealously guarding ideas, but let's say someone in Africa does well, someone in Asia doesn't need to be jealous of them, and vice versa. They could support and encourage each other, look at what they have in common, the fact they were colonized, so their former colonies, how they were discriminated against and humiliated by the West in many cases in history. And as I say, collaborating together, look at what they have in common, and hopefully, again, that can create dialogue, diplomacy, and things like that, and prevent wars. And again, collaborating together in politics, business, tech, STEM, the movie industry, the music industry, and all sorts of different industries, and learn about each other's cultures, histories, traditions, and different things about each other, as I say, facts and info about each other, and yeah, hopefully collaborate together. Number 5, I'd love to get as many. I actually mentioned in the intro. I hope people will subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and support my content, share the videos, and that kind of thing as much as possible. And hopefully, people from across Africa and Asia will do so. And if these videos ever got monetized, I would love to donate to Africa and Asia. And I guess the main goal for these series of videos, these 4 series of videos, which I hope to make ASAP, would be to hopefully I'll get them done tonight, but hopefully ASAP would be, or is, ready to is to improve relations between Africa and Asia, again through Egypt, via Egypt as a bridge between them. So Africa and Asia can network together, learn from each other, promote their products, and hopefully prevent wars. I hope they won't drag each other into war, go to war against each other. So they have agreements and come together and see what they have in common and discuss common goals, things like networking together. Businesses from China, India, and the rest of Asia, and Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and the rest of Africa could come together and network and again share ideas and things like that. So I'd love for Egypt to host as many of those events as possible, events, summits, conferences, and whatnot, and hopefully have share goals and aims and ambitions, promote and support African and Asian ambition and that kind of thing. So yeah, it'd be cool to see what they could achieve. Maybe even supporting each other on like social media, on like YouTube, TikTok, and things like that. So African and Asian YouTubers and TikTokers supporting each other. Again, I think approximately between 5 and 6 billion people supporting each other. I think it'd be amazing to see what they could achieve if they work together on things like. Initially, this idea I've got, I mainly think of for like Africa specifically, but it's Africans working together on something I call MOP, M.O.P. Which would be like the micro operating programmer or processor, which would be ideally something a bit like Microsoft MS-DOS or whatever, disk operating system or whatever, but it would help Africans and Asians to work together, especially Africans, in creating like antivirus software and basically a computer program which would help people, especially in Africa, but maybe even Asia and Africa together as well. They could work on tech projects as well and benefit each other. When it comes to African countries, when people invest in their country, they compete in their continent. They compete to invest in different African countries for their resources. But maybe African countries I often think of, I mentioned in the past, but they could say if you train up 40 or more of our people, or whichever country invests the most in training up our people in tech, in video game making, software development, and things like that, AI apps and all that sort of stuff, they could be the ones to get deals that are access to African resources, in which case Africa would at least get, as a continent, and each country in Africa, hopefully, and their citizens most importantly, would at least get training and something basically therefore in return. And moving on, talking about trying to keep it short and sweet. Number 6, as I say, I'd love to see as many Africans and Asians as possible investing into sponsoring and supporting and following, and maybe even donating to, but certainly, hopefully, following, supporting, donating to, and investing into Italian football, and working together to the best of their ability as well, more generally in different projects. I'll say. Number 7, same sort of thing with Celtic. And at one point, I often mention nowadays, even though I'm not that religious, it's like something I've heard: many hands make light work. Many hands, and many minds working together, I think, can achieve so many great things. Like I say, MOP, if you like, M.O.P. The micro operating programmer or processor could be something which Africans especially, and maybe again to an extent Asians and allies of Africa could work together to help African software development, and changing the perception like of Nigeria and Somalia and Africa generally. So they're actually tackling the problem of like piracy and viruses and things like that, and cutting crime and corruption online and that kind of thing. Number 8, it'd be cool if they talked about positive things about each other. Another thing I think of with Egypt is like Blasians, people who are part black and part Asian, visiting Egypt, as symbolically it's between Africa and Asia, just like Blasians' roots. Similar to what I think with my fellow Eurasians visiting like Turkey and other Eurasian nations, symbolically, like as it's a similar background to us. Number 9, I'd love to promote, I'd say, projects, whether that's poets, artists, writers, directors, producers, musicians, entrepreneurs, and all sorts of people from Africa and Asia to see how they can be empowered. supporting each other's projects and ventures and adventures and that kind of thing, and maybe even touring each other's nations, learning from each other, but especially Egypt to host many of those events, Africa and Asia and that kind of thing. And number two, youth empowerment. Again, YouTube and TikTok could be used to do that as well. And as ever, I hope you let me know what you think, but hopefully it won't be too harsh, and I'm out. Peace and love.